Next to me, Senator Richard Onyonka from Kisii. Right next to him, Senator John Methu from Nyandarua, all on the far end. Professor Tom Ojienda from Kisumu County. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being on the show. Let me ask you first, real quick, Senator Onyonka. You know, you guys, the governors call you guys the House of Bribes.
Yes.
Go on, explain to me. Why do they say that?
They're actually saying the truth. Kenya is a house of bribes, and they're part of it. They're the ones who bribe our colleagues when they're visiting their committees and tell them, whatever that you see in the audit report, please do not. Why was I kicked out of the SIPA committee? Because I was told you've been asking too many questions about ODM governors, and you're an ODM senator. And I said, but my job is to oversight these guys, and they're doing some filthy stuff. They're able to influence who will sit in what committee and what they must speak.
So you agree that your house is rotten?
It's a filthy place. I've always said it, Jeff. It's a den of gamblers and street vendors and money dealers and gold proprietors, except the only thing they never do is to fight for public service, is to fight for service delivery, is to fight for money not to be wasted.
Senator Methu, House of Bribes.
You know, I would not say, I would not want to borrow the words of Senator Onyonka, but I served with him in the Public Accounts Committee. We were kicked out together.
Kicked out?
Yeah, of course, because we were told that, you know, you guys, you are asking too many questions. I mean, this is not how it's done. You guys are first-time senators. This is not how it's done. But the long and short of what I would say, Parliament, in my opinion, is the weak link in serving the people of Kenya. Because it's been said countless times. You saw, I mean, somebody was actually narrating how they gave 100 million to have a governor impeached. You saw it. I mean, somebody was actually making an admission that we gave 100 million. We saw money exchange
when
hands.
he was in government.
We saw money, I mean, a lot of money being carried with bags when Rigathi Gachagua was being impeached. I mean, guys were being told that there's money here, just come and
collect.
Did you collect?
Well,
he was
I mean, if I had collected, I would not have voted in his favor. So,
you can still collect.
Okay. I hear there are guys who collect and run.
Yeah.
I'm not made of that material. But I'm telling you, Jeff, as it is now, both the National Assembly and the Senate, the place of Mwananchi is not in those two places. It's not in neither in the National Assembly nor in the Senate. And you see that most of the things that are processed, because you say, sometimes we say that there are excesses from the executive, but the people who are supposed to play oversight, either on the executive and even on the governors, is supposed to be us, the senators.
Yeah.
My last point would be, now, I was actually now surprised to hear that governors are now saying, these guys are asking for bribes. Now, if you ask for bribes, you've been a governor for 3 years. You've been appearing before the Public Accounts Committee. You've never complained the first year. You never complained the second year. You never complained the third year. You are now complaining the fourth year. You know why? Because it is now time that they're answering their own questions. You know, initially they used to say, audit reports do not come for this financial year. Now we've now gotten to their financial years of the time they are now governors.
Right.
It's the reason why they now want to complain and say that no, we don't want this judge. We don't want this judge. We want this judge who can be able to ask us these questions.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been taken to court and you are saying that I don't want this judge. I want to be judged by so and so because I think they are a fairer judge. So
that the other judge eats too much.
So I will not stand on the place of saying that the Senate mweupe kama pamba. No, they are not mweupe kama pamba. I've seen money move. I've seen people.
Professor Tom Ojienda, SC.
Jeff, I have a contrary opinion. I think Parliament, in this case, the National Assembly, under Article 95, with obligations, legislative oversight and representation, and Senate under Article 96, have a duty, one, to enact law, and we are doing very well in that regard. Number two, representation. We represent and raise the issues that touch on the public. I think we do quite a good job there. Now, oversight is where there's a problem. And oversight, because we are oversighting governors and people feel that they should not be oversighted. And if you look at the chapter on public finance, chapter 12 of the Constitution, it's our old framework. And that framework is intended to build to ensure that devolution is built as intended by the Constitution.
Yeah.
And of course, that then, we just voted in, we'll be voting in, we voted in for 420 billion down to counties. My own county got about 8 billion, while that will go to recurrent and other development questions. Jeff, the concern is this. How can governors, and I like what Methu said, that the oversight years, we've been oversighting years before some of these governors were elected into office. Now we've got to the crucial years when they're in office, and therefore we'll be oversighting questions that they are responsible for. So the excuse of non-appearance, the excuse of blaming another governor who was in office doesn't arise for first-term governors. But I'm not saying that Senate is entirely clean or the National Assembly is entirely clean. I think that it is important for those governors to say that they've been asked for money, to name the individual senators or MPs, because they are accomplices. You cannot fund or pay funds to let the legislator look the other side and not be guilty, because both of you are partners in crime. So let them speak and say to whom they gave the money, for what purpose, and what they were trying to cover. Because clearly, Jeff, there's at times, and hearing, you find that there's an audit query of 100 million shillings spent. And maybe then they deal. And so they should say what they're dealing on. But they must appear. If they don't appear, there's a very simple solution. We will simply not vote the money.
So you're nodding.
The point I am making is this, and let me maybe sound a little bit more serious. I believe that the infrastructure that we had from the 2010 Constitution has deliberately been emasculated to the point that the houses that are supposed to provide oversight, and that is the Senate and the National Assembly, are they themselves actually dysfunctional. Dysfunctional in that the guardrails, whatever laws and whatever legal interpretation that had been given to the House on what we are supposed to do. For example, you look at the Consolidated Fund. The Consolidated Fund was actually a fund that nationally, previously in our history, there was no president who had unaffected access to that Consolidated Fund. Now, the president has complete access to the Consolidated. He doesn't have to seek parliamentary approval to do anything. He can actually take that money and spend it. All right?
Yeah.
And that is why, if you notice, some of us are saying, we have absolutely no problem with the government borrowing money to come and do infrastructure. We don't have a problem with that. But why is it that you don't want this money to be managed and controlled by the controller budget? Do I even know whether this money, the way you have framed everything you've done, the money is not even supposed to be audited?
Yeah.
I mean, what we are saying is, we want this country to be transparent. We want people to be responsible. And yet, my honest feeling is we who have been given that responsibility have abdicated it.
And at the same time, gentlemen, let me tell you this. The Senate, initially during the 2010 Constitution, was supposed to be the House of the Wise Men.
Yes, the upper house.
House of the Wise Men.
Then it was diluted.
Let me say something. Let me say something, Jeff. I'll say two things. Number one, when Senator Professor Ojenda says that on the first limb of what Parliament is expected to do, oversight, representation and legislation, we've done very well on representation. I find it somewhat also very economical. And I'll give an example. Now, like say the 2024 finance bill, the people of Kenya had spoken unequivocally about that particular piece of legislation. The church, the youth, everybody, demonstrations everywhere. All the memoranda that we had received as Parliament, nobody was supporting the 2024 finance bill, for example. Now, what do our members of Parliament do? They go and pass the very, very piece of legislation
which the public
that has
want.
the public has said that we don't want this particular legislation. Yeah. So sometimes I actually wonder, this representation that we say that we are representing the people, because sovereignty, according to Article 1 of the Constitution, is with the people of Kenya. Is it really the people of Kenya that we represent, or sometimes we actually represent the interests of the president, because it is the president who was actually really pushing?
Are you saying your hands are tied? You feel your hands are tied?
No, our hands are not tied. Our hands are not tied, Jeff, because you see, there is separation of power. And I think, this is very, very clear in the 2010 Constitution. The working of Parliament, if Parliament was supposed to work the way it's supposed to work in terms of oversight, in terms of representation, like, for example, when we say our hands are tied, what stopped the National Assembly from not passing the finance bill? What obligation did they have to pass a finance bill that the people had actually rejected that piece of legislation?
Yeah.
Let me come to the Senate. After everybody, and that is why I would want to say that the people of Kenya should have some level of faith, especially in the Senate. After everybody ran away, the National Assembly was suspended, everybody ran away. It is this gentleman that you are seeing here and the other colleagues of ours that went back to the Senate and said, guys, look here, we have a country. And if we allow every institution to go down, all of us are going down. And we were able to bring very good motions. Unfortunately, the implementation of the good things that we spoke about, just the same way that I have had some people say now, oh, the 10-point agenda is limitless. It is not time-bound. We can actually, because that is that is the architecture of our governance, Jeff.
Yeah.
They are very good. If you look at the motions, the motion that we processed after the Gen Z protest in June of 2024, if you look at the things that we passed and we say that these are the things that have been raised by the people, and if they are implemented, we shall be able to have our country back. If you look at the 10-point agenda, for example, some people are saying that this thing, we don't have a timeline. Like, for example, let me ask you, one of the things that has been proposed in the 10-point agenda is timely disbursement of revenue to counties. So, what is required to implement such an agenda?
Science.
Nothing.
Okay.
All these things that have been proposed in the 10-point agenda, they
are not complex.
They should not even have taken a year.
Okay, Prof, let me ask you this. Who is the Senate accountable to?
The Senate is accountable to the people. That's number one. Because representation under 96, directly you look at Article 1, the people, and then the institution, and then 96.3. Now, the Senate then is created by law. It is the Constitution that puts it in place to undertake the function that it does. And that is why it must also act in a timely manner to ensure that it delivers through, of course, enacting DORA and ensuring that
further legislation
funds go to counties. And that is why he has a point that Article 10 of the Constitution talks about or has institutionalized public participation. And we have a law that defines how public participation must be undertaken. And when the people then speak at barazas or at meetings, when we have bills in Parliament, we go out there to seek the views of the public before they're enacted so that we then can deal with some issues. And I think the Public Finance Bill or Act that he talks about had provisions that probably were sticky out there and eventually led to the events of 2015.
All right.
But it is important that the people also speak when they're given an opportunity to speak.
By the way, Jeff,
hold on a second. I got to take a break right now. I'll come back and you hold that thought because we'll come back exactly to that. And also, there's so much we want to talk about in the Senate. I mean, your leader, your DCP leader says, governors should take development to the people. Mm-hmm. Half the governors, well, not half, many governors in the north especially, they live here in Nairobi. Mm-hmm. We won't talk about that. Why is the Senate so silent, in other words? You people are like church mice. You're silent. Got Professor Tom Ojienda, SC, from Kisumu.
That's a
Senator
question.
John Methu.
We will
answer that.
We have the data. We have the receipts.
You guys are silent.
We are not silent.
You're not?
We are not.
You're making noise.
Yeah, that is why they don't want to appear before us.
Oh.
Why?
We have the receipts.
We'll take a quick break, come back, plenty more ahead. Keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff, at Ayub Abdikadir, at Susan Tuke, the hashtag is JKL Live. JKL Live takes a break. We'll be back very shortly, in a moment.
On JKL Tonight.